Hey guys, Attorney Walter Knott. I'm hoping you can hear me just well. Howdy, Michelle Malone. Howdy, howdy. So let's get right into this particular video. I want to explain what's going on. I'm going to be doing a video. Leanne, howdy, howdy. I'm going to be doing a video on where your federal taxes go. And one of the problems I just want to let you know ahead of time is that there are no clear reports that I've been able to find. What will happen is they'll come out with some government-based report, then articles will be written about it. Then somebody will do a Freedom of Information Act review, and basically magically there's more money spent. So what I want to do is just go through with some basic articles found, some usual groups that I go to specifically for numbers, howdy garden, and I want to go through these things with you so that you understand the basics in billions of dollars sense. Okay, we're not dealing with little itty bitty numbers here, we're dealing with billions. Where your federal tax dollars go, we're focusing on 2019. Because basically what's happening is it's just more and more and more and more money is being spent as time goes on. I originally did a video about essentially a large amount of money that was spent in 2020, and unfortunately that was too low of a number for the new 2021 figures that were coming out under Biden. So Biden actually spent a bit more, but Trump was a huge spender on foreign aid as well. Here we go, guys. Let's get right into it. We're going to be going into the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. Specifically, what we'll be focusing on here, policy basics, where do our federal tax dollars go? This was done by www.cbpp.org. So let's go right into it and get it rolling. Howdy, guys. Howdy, John Burrs. Howdy, Sheila B. Howdy, Peggy Smith. Howdy, Joseph Newcomb. Howdy, Lillian Hartley. Jane Doe. Howdy. The federal government collects taxes to finance various public services as policymakers and citizens weigh key decisions about revenues and expenditures. It is instructive to examine what the government does with the money it collects. Now, once again, just to be very clear, none of these figures are perfect. There's no magical audit that's going on where we have absolute numbers. So when you see something different on an article, you're going to. I merely picked ones that were in the medium, the mean of where exactly I'm seeing on a couple of different groups. All right, here we go. This was updated April 9th, 2020. So this is about the 2019 fiscal year. That way we had some time to go ahead and get the numbers correct. All right. In fiscal year 2019, the federal government spent $4.4 trillion, amounting to 21% of the nation's gross domestic product. Of that $4.4 trillion, over $3.5 trillion was financed by federal reserves. The remaining amount, $984 billion, was financed by borrowing. As the chart below shows, three major areas of spending make up the majority of the budget. I just want to make something clear here. We are borrowing $1 trillion in 2019. All right, here we go. Social Security in 2019, 23% of the budget, or $1 trillion, paid for Social Security, which provided monthly retirement benefits averaging $1,503 to 45 million retired workers in December 2019. Social Security also provided benefits to 3 million spouses and children of retired workers, 6 million surviving children and spouses of deceased workers, and 10 million disabled workers and their eligible dependents in December of 2019. Okay, so bottom line was 23% Social Security benefits. Group 2, Medicare, Medicaid, CHIP, and marketplace subsidies. Okay, we're talking about health insurance. 4 health insurance programs, Medicare, Medicaid, the Children's Health Insurance Program, CHIP, and the Affordable Care Act, ACA, the marketplace, together accounted for 25% of the budget in 2019, or $1.1 trillion. Nearly 3/5 of this amount, the $651 billion, went to Medicare. Okay, Medicare is the big one on this one, which provides health coverage to around 61 million people who are over age 65 or have disabilities. The rest of this category funds Medicaid, CHIP, and ACA subsidy and marketplace costs. In a typical month, Medicaid and CHIP provide health care or long-term care to about 82 million low-income children, parents, elderly people, and people with disabilities. Both Medicaid and CHIP require matching payments from the states. In 2019, 9.6 million of the 11.4 million people enrolled in health insurance through the ACA marketplace received subsidies that lower premiums and out-of-pocket costs at an estimated cost of about $56 billion. So just to make things clear, guys, Social Security is 23%. Health insurance, our Medicare, Medicaid, CHIP, marketplace subsidies, that's looking like 25% of the budget. Let's keep rolling. Defense and international security assistance. Okay, defense and international security assistance. Another 16% of the budget, or $697 billion paid for defense and security-related international activities. The bulk of the spending in this category reflects the underlying costs of the Defense Department. The total also includes the cost of supporting operations in Afghanistan and other related activities described as overseas contingency operations in the budget, funding for which totaled $77 billion in 2019. Two other categories together account for less than a fifth of spending. Okay, so let's go through this real quick. What we have there is Social Security, 23%. Medicare, Medicaid, chip and marketplace subsidies, right? That's going to be 25%. Defense, our military, things like that, that's 16%. Here we go. Okay, so next thing. Howdy, guys. Good to see you. Safety net programs. About 8% of the federal budget in 2019, or $361 billion, supported programs that provide aid other than health insurance or social security benefits to individuals and families facing hardship. Safety net programs include the refundable portions of the Earned Income Tax Credit and the Child Tax Credit, which assist low and moderate income working families. Programs that provide cash payments to eligible individuals or households, including supplemental security income for the elderly or disabled poor, and unemployment insurance, various forms of in-kind assistance for low-income people, including SNAP, school meals, low-income housing assistance, child care assistance, and help meeting home energy bills, and various other programs such as those that aid abused or neglected children. That's 8%. Such programs keep millions of people out of poverty each year. A CBPP analysis using census supplemental poverty measures shows that the government safety net program kept 37 million people out of poverty in calendar year 2018. Without any government income assistance, either from safety net programs or other income supports like Social Security, the poverty rate would have been 24% in 2018, nearly double the actual 12.8%. And these programs reduce the depth of poverty for millions more, even when not bringing them above the poverty line. So what we have in this country is a massive, absolutely massive amount of poor people. I don't know if you understand what this is coming to as a result. We have a lot of poor people. We have a system, an industry of capitalism that does not support the average American doing well. We have a lot of young moms with a lot of young kids. Let's just say it like it is. The bottom line is we have a lot of poor people. 8%, not the regular Social Security stuff, but 8% is spent on our total budget. Well, it's actually more than that because we had to take out $1 trillion that year on safety net programs. So just keep that in mind. Oh, also, Catherine is setting up a Zoom meeting. I think she is. I hope she is. To go ahead and basically allow us to go ahead and do a Zoom at the end of this. I think she is. I'm not sure if she is. Maybe she is. Hey, we'll go from there. But the bottom line is we are pushing forward, obviously, the vote to protectdisabled.org. The template website is up that we have to go edit now. So we'll go into that more later. Next thing, interest on debt. The federal government must make regular interest payments on the money it borrowed to finance past deficits. That is on the federal debt held by the public. Like they take it out on our names, right? You say your name and then you're in debt. That's how it works. Okay, which reached $16.8 trillion by the end of the fiscal year 2019. In 2019, these interest payments claimed $375 billion, or about 8% of the budget. So to put this in perspective, we took out another $1 trillion. We are now, as of 2019, in $16.8 trillion worth of debt, which we've had essentially politicians who don't know how to run a business, who don't know how to do an accounting, who don't know how to support the people. And I just want to point out one thing very clearly here. If the American people had a better education system, less monopolistic capitalism, and basically small businesses and medium-sized businesses that were competing, manufacturing plants, and proper wages, we would have higher GDP. I know it's amazing, right? It's simple. It makes sense. It should be easy, but it's not apparently. It's not to the tune of GXY. Thank you. Oh my goodness. I have to call you. Seriously. I've been so busy just trying to catch everything up, but GXY, I'm going to call you tomorrow. Like, I'm going to bug you tomorrow. So just know that. That's with this said, GXY, thank you. I really appreciate it. GXY has donated a lot, guys. He donated. I'm not sure. I have to get his okay to say how much, but he's donated a lot, which really, really helps me to make these shows. Most importantly, to get treats for the dogs who are right now outside, but they'll be back, and I'm sure they'll be barking and snarking. But guys, I want to make something very clear. 16.8 trillion represents a number of failure. Now, look, we all sometimes have to take out loans. I took out an SBA loan to go ahead and keep my law firm going because we had a giant collapse from COVID. I used to just go to offices and see people day in and day out all over Central Florida. And then they closed all the offices and said, you can't go anymore. And I was like, whoa, what am I going to do? And then we went online and we became like mostly an online firm, but I still go to like homeless help offices because how the heck are they going to fax, email, text me stuff that they can't? So bottom line is we had to change. We had to modify ourselves. But that's what good business people do. They look at what we need. They look at where we're going. We take out a small loan to get us there, and we march in that direction. This is an example of politicians making poor choices. I have a theory, but then it's totally blown out of the water. So if we look at the business of the United States, right? We say the business, the company of the United States. We know that politicians have relatively short terms, but then they can make them into massive terms, right? And then they become royalty as politicians. We know that long-term royalty does not work. They haven't fixed poverty yet. They haven't fixed our housing problem yet. They haven't, figured out how to properly educate Americans to build new industries. They haven't figured out how to fix our economy when it comes to how much we earn. They haven't figured out how to make, people have houses all the time instead of being stuck in this, I got to rent this little tiny thing and it's terrible. But they've taken us away from the American dream and slowly dragged us into $16.8 trillion in debt. 8% of the budget, 8% of the taxes you pay each year specifically go just to pay for the failures of the politicians that came before. It's a chunk. It's not as bad as a credit card, but we're getting there. All right. As the chart shows, the remaining fifth of federal spending supports a variety of other public services. These include providing health care and other benefits to veterans and retirement benefits to retired federal employees, ensuring safe food and drug, protecting the environment, investing in education, scientific and medical research, and basic infrastructure such as roads, bridges, and airports. A very small slice, less than 1% of the budget, goes to non-security programs that operate internationally, including programs providing humanitarian aid. While critics often decry government spending, it is important to look beyond the rhetoric and determine whether the actual public services that government provides are valuable. To the extent that let's just review that sentence real quick. While the critics often decry government spending, they whine about it, it is important to look beyond the rhetoric and determine whether the actual public services that government provides are valuable. What they said in this sentence could be a little misleading. What they're saying is, we spend a lot on these programs. Are these programs essentially worth what we're spending on these programs? And then you got to wonder, have these programs been successful in achieving the basics? Ending poverty, ending homelessness, creating future leaders of industry, creating future industries, creating technology of the future, creating blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like the basics. Fixing human hunger, fixing lack of water, the basics. And we can very safely say that they haven't. They've all been a Band-Aid, and we're now 16.8 trillion in debt. So we haven't fixed anything, and now we're 16.8 trillion in debt. We only make, supposedly, from what I've read, or what was a reasonable number, around 22 trillion a year, but nobody really knows. Nobody really knows. Let's go. To the extent that such services are worth paying for, the only way to do so is ultimately with tax revenue. Consequently, there is another way to do it. There is another way. Let's read that again. To the extent that such services are worth paying for, to the extent that they're worth what we pay for them, the only way to do so is ultimately with tax revenue. It could be from investment, revenue, or in that case, it would be, essentially what the investments pay out. It would be revenue. It could be from we could have invested back into our own United States-based companies. We do all this green investment stuff to companies that end up failing or getting sold to another country, like the big one that was sold to China. So the problem is we got an issue here. We didn't invest in sure bets with trillions of dollars that would have brought back good investments and resulted in America basically being in the plus, like in the Clinton years. Not that Clinton was amazing on it, it's just we went into the plus during the Clinton years. So my point to you guys is really this. With this whole situation, my concern is that we are going further and further into debt. More and more each year, because of this debt, is being used instead of on the American people. It is going to pay for our credit cards, if you will. And the problem with the credit card crisis situation that we are creating is that it's financially larger than the 2008 housing crisis, financially larger than the 2018-2019 car crisis when it came to everybody buying cars they couldn't afford. And still we're in that to some degree, but now we've switched because now cars are worth a ton because we can't get the chips to put them in from China. So the big thing that I see here is this change that's happening. We've become cool with debt. We've become okay with the country constantly trying to climb its way out, but then not doing that and getting deeper in the hole. What would it take to actually know financially what's going on? What if we had a civilian-based auditing group, right? What if we had that? What if we all put together a single dollar, and we put that dollar towards a group of accountants that would all receive the information, Freedom of Information Act, to go through it and create their own accounting of it? What if we had that? Would it help? Would it be worse? Would it be better? I don't know. I don't know. So let's go through this real quick. Final sentence here. Consequently, when thinking about the costs that taxes impose, it is essential to balance those costs against the benefit the nation receives from public services. Okay, simple, straightforward. Appendix. Because we discuss total federal spending, we do not distinguish programs financed by general revenues from those financed by dedicated revenues, aka the Social Security Administration. For more information, see Policy Basics, Federal Payroll Taxes. We based our estimates on spending in fiscal year 2019 on the most recent historical data released by the Office of Management Budget. Federal fiscal year 2019 ran from October 1st, 2018 to September 30th of 2019. Okay. This broad expenditure categories presented in this paper were constructed on the basis of classifications commonly used by budget agencies. They're telling us that they're not accurate. They're telling us that these are like maybe kind of maybes. The categories are constructed by grouping related programs and activities into broad functions, which are further broken down into sub-functions. The details of how the categories used in this paper were constructed from those functions to sub-functions are described below. Here we get into the cutesy math. Here we go. Social Security. This category consists of all expenditures in the Social Security function 650, including benefits and administrative costs. Medicare, Medicaid, CHIP, and marketplace subsidies. This category consists of the Medicare function 570, including benefits, administrative costs, premiums, basically all of your Medicare, Medicaid stuff. But when I go through all of this, what I'm not seeing here is foreign aid. I'm not seeing foreign aid. All right, so we know that they took generalized categories, right? They took a big number and they pizza pied it up based upon what they think it kind of maybe should have what we spent in. Okay. So we know that basically, here we go. USAID from the American people. Fiscal year 2019 development and humanitarian assistance budget. Now we're going to get into federal foreign aid. The president's fiscal year 2019, this is Trump, for USAID supports the president's commitment to serve the needs of the American people, American citizens, ensure their safety, promote their prosperity, preserve their rights, and defend their values, as outlined in the president's national security strategy. Here's the bottom line of this. In this, we're going to talk about basically the basic functions of what the government was thinking about during the 2019 budget on stuff. We're also going to go into a bit of foreign aid, which is going to anger you slightly, but that's okay. and then we're going to do some questions. We might even cut it short depending on how time goes because I started late tonight. Okay. All right. So let's see. So the whole purpose of 2019 for that budget that we just read was to protect America's security at home and abroad. The goal was to defeat ISIS and other violent extremist organizations by countering ISIS at its core in Iraq, Syria, and elsewhere around the world, promoting stability in areas where these groups could spread, and supporting the needs of displaced religious minorities in the Middle East and North Africa. Well, we know in 2021, the whole, Afghanistan massive collapse. Unfortunately, we know that the goal was not now under the new presidential White House to defeat ISIS, but rather to unfortunately unravel and then fund a portion of them to, I guess, do humanitarian effort inside their own organization, but it's legitimized it as the new rulers of Afghanistan. So I guess we have a loss there. Protect U.S. strategic interests in Europe, Eurasia, and Central Asia by reducing vulnerability to Russian aggression and malign influence, strengthening market economies and trade opportunities, independent media and democratic institutions, and promoting anti-corruption, energy-independent efforts in Eastern Europe and Central Asia. That was one of our goals. In 2019, that goes with this budget. The problem inherent with this is that now we know China and Russia are building up to have a military incursion into Taiwan area. They're making the Australians very scared. The Australians are sitting there going, well, we have our military, but we've taken all the guns away from our people. So now, from what I see the U.S. now having to enter into some sort of military exercise with China, at least in a defensive measure, to allow Taiwan to be what Taiwan is, if they so choose. I don't know. Hong Kong very simply wins, so maybe Taiwan, I don't know. But Australia is very nervous right now. Expand opportunities to promote lasting stability, peace, and democracy. So here's the thing that's funny is that for some reason with our foreign aid, and we'll get to it shortly, we spend a lot of money on all these different countries for foreign aid. It seems to me like for some reason, these democracy-based countries are very weak at being able to build a sustainable and ongoing country. They need the U.S. to constantly fund them, to keep them rolling in the right direction. They then allow us to obviously have military bases present, and we get to go ahead and, play on the monopoly board and put more of our military bases around it. We get more of the railroads on the monopoly board. Okay. Expand opportunities to promote lasting democracy by strengthening institutions and civil society to promote accountable governance that is responsible to citizens and foster resilience. So what's interesting about that is we are really nowhere closer to being out of our $1 trillion debt, which means our own democracy is completely incapable of funding itself. Yet we're spreading. So one of the things we have to question is, do we want to pay off our debt or do we want to just keep growing our debt? And that's one of the tough things. Howdy, Florida couple. So the next thing is we review America's competitive advantage for sustained economic growth and job creation. Commerce and trade by facilitating trade, supporting economic reforms that combat corruption, promote transparency and accountability, and strengthen market-oriented governance and institutions to create markets for U.S. exports and opportunities to U.S. investors. Leverage strategic partnerships with the private sector by harnessing the assets and skills and financial resources of businesses to drive development, advance shared interests and opportunities, and support the U.S. government developmental finance efforts in coordination with the developmental finance institution. One of the problems we see as American people that we see on both CNN, that we see on both Fox News, these two groups, is that we need basic things to create industry. Do we need more highways? No. Do we need upkeep on our highways? Sure. I was just in New York. I was just in Pennsylvania. I was just in Massachusetts. I was in Connecticut. Pennsylvania was okay, but New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, your roads are in shambles. They are horribly pathetic. I don't know what it is, but like Georgia, Florida, the roads are incredibly good, amazing. But those other places, they're terrible. When it comes to our bridges, of course, we need upkeep on them. Do we need more bridges? We are in a massive deficit right now. So in order for us to improve, we need to basically use what we have and fund companies by investing in them that are US based. That's tough now. I know what you guys are thinking. It's easy. We just invest in companies we have here. But most companies we have here don't make their products here. Many of them don't even assemble their products here. The products come here via massive ship. So either way, promote American leadership through balanced engagement. Provide leadership in response to humanitarian crisis by assisting victims of conflict and natural disaster, providing emergency food aid, and addressing the underlying cause of food insecurity. This is the foundation of what America was about with our foreign aid. Somehow that transitioned into, gender X studies in, the Middle East and things like that, where we were seeing millions and millions going to these things that don't really make any sense as to the agenda of humanitarian crisis by assisting victims of conflict. You could say that there was a small group that was in definite conflict, sure, but not compared to the massive groups that could have used those funds to actually survive as a town that was being murdered by weaponry. Mobilize countries' own domestic resources, improve global public health and prevent the spread of disease. We certainly failed on that one. Set the expectation that other donors will do their fair share to support economic growth and develop worldwide and to address humanitarian crisis. One of the things I want to point out is that America is the largest when it comes to foreign aid. It's a big company or country. It makes a lot. But unfortunately, we're not really paying down our debt. So I think one of the big things we need to work on is figuring out how we pay down our debt. There are certain debts that can't be repaid. They're just too big. Those are things like my student loans. you just keep paying money and they keep getting bigger. But then there are things also like, for example, our trillions and trillions in debt. If we make so much, could we pull back some of our humanitarian aid in the sense of what we're giving to countries just to go ahead and allow their democracy to, I guess, do better? If we really want these countries to do better, our military presence is usually the thing we want in their country. So then I query to you, is our military presence necessary? Is our military presence something that should essentially be there to prevent larger countries like Russia and China from taking over those areas? Or is it one of those things where this great threat, and don't think the U.S. isn't big on threats. Our court systems are built on threats. Our law enforcement in the streets, sheriffs, police officers, it's built usually on threats. Our military is just one giant threat. Our nuclear arsenal is just one giant threat. So the bottom line is this. I want you to realize the American dream, the American country, the whole thing is one big threat. When people in other countries see on TV these beautiful towns and these beautiful places and these beautiful bridges and cities and this and that, that is a threat to them because they see it as something much larger than what their country has been able to accomplish. It's all a form of threat. It's something that looks nice, but obviously now we all tune in. We're like, hey, what are some of these Middle East nations doing that have these mega hotels, these beautiful yachts? It's a form of a threat of financial security that no longer needs the U.S. Ensure effectiveness and accountability to the American taxpayer. Maximize the impact of every dollar by continuing to improve accountability and transparency through strengthening program design, increased use of innovative awards, and co-creation with partners. That's all cool, but our dollar is significantly decreased in value. And the worst part is all of my buddies in the retired field, all of my buddies in the disabled field, they're going to be hurt beyond comparison. And while you've got these other channels out there talking about what Bernie said yesterday, the problem inherent is that Bernie Sanders has no power at the federal level to really change things. A lot of his ideas are great, but the problem is he has no power to change them because there's not enough Bernies. There's not enough Bernies in the House or the Senate to go ahead and change the actual laws to push them through. So the problem we run into is this. Can we afford to treat the disabled better? Can we afford to treat the retired individuals better by increasing what they get? Of course. But we choose to not do it because we just don't learn about the system and force the system to answer to us. Maximize the impact of every dollar. our food's going to go up 10, 20, 30%. The worst cities to get hit are going to be New York City and California. Those are also two places where there is a heck of a lot of homeless individuals. So just keep that in mind. That will be the new humanitarian crisis. Enhance effectiveness through policy and process redesign by better aligning foreign interests with national security and foreign policy priorities. We've been trying to do that for years, but turning countries into democracies, I mean, sure, Afghanistan was a long shot. Turning that into a democracy, unlikely. Unlikely, and the moment we pulled out, it all collapsed. Sure. But what about Ukraine? What about Austria? What about, France? What about Germany? What about Switzerland? It's interesting. It's interesting stuff. The point I want to get to with this is basically the money is being spent improperly. And obviously you guys can tell that, you know that. But it's being spent so improperly that the main focus of every argument every year for the budget is that we need to raise the debt ceiling or else the government's going to shut down. And if the government shuts down, then the politicians aren't getting paid. And if the politicians aren't getting paid, they can't go ahead and create the new laws to go ahead and open everything back up to keep us going. I think an interesting thing that the next video should be on is basically about how do we borrow money? What are all the different groups that we're borrowing money from? Are they families? Are they countries? Are they special interests? Where are we getting this massive, massive amount of money? I mean, think about that. Who has a massive amount of trillions of dollars that can be borrowed from? Like, who has that many trillions? So here we go, over here. So when you look at the $16.8 trillion that the interest payments claimed $375 billion in 2019, or about 8% of the overall budget, who has $16.8 trillion to borrow from? The Rothschilds don't have that, I assume. The oldest Jewish dynasty. When it comes to financial banking, I assume China wouldn't even have all that money, right? It is who has all this money that we borrow it from? Do we borrow it? We borrow it obviously against the name of the American people, but like, who's cool with that? If I went to a bank and I was like, "Hey, I want to borrow, so many $1 million," they'd look at me and be like, "On whose name?" And I'd be like, "The American people," and they would be like, "I don't think so." All right, so I now want to talk about foreign aid specifically in America for 2019. And I want you to understand, we just keep doing this, and Trump, and I want you to understand that, was spending a lot on foreign aid. It appears to me that the cost of foreign aid keeps going up. And I think the problem with this is that it's going the wrong way. Wow, GXY, thank you. I really, 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 really appreciate it. I really, 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 really appreciate it. It's covering important, extremely relevant info here. I really appreciate it. GXY, thank you. And also, guys, for Cheyenne, I don't know if she's in the chat. I can't say. There she is. Okay, cool. Perfect. I just want to go ahead and let you guys know that there's an amazing channel. Please go check it out. I don't know if she's making any new videos, but she should be making some new videos because they're very good. They follow a lifestyle that I don't, but I should, which is looking at life as a much happier, glass overflowing style. But please go. Positively Cheyenne, can you put in real quick your specific channel details? And also, guys, if you could help me out, this is another one, Vacation Medication. It's a YouTube channel. It's where we're going to be posting relaxation videos. We're going to have a real licensed doctorate level therapy, or it's like a musical therapy or a sign therapy. I'm not sure exactly what the title is, but we're going to have a real person, a hypno person that's actually going to be working on these things and making relaxation videos, how to quit smoking videos, all that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited about that, but that's the beginning of it. So if you guys could subscribe to that and also Cheyenne's channel, I would really, really appreciate it. Let's talk about fiscal year 2019 budget highlights, specifically for what we're talking about when it comes to foreign aid, how much money was spent in 2019. Let me just go ahead and bring up the article real quick. Okay, here we go. Okay. So there's different numbers. Once again, I just want to be very clear with this because people get very upset about this and they're like, that's not what I saw in one article. I just want to be clear on this. And I just want to be very, very straightforward. Every place you go has different numbers. There is no perfect knowing on how much was actually spent. One thing is for sure, the politicians don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe a couple do. Maybe on a single committee they do. We don't know, which is a huge problem because the debt's being taken out on our name. We are the golden egg-laying nuggets that basically go ahead and allow them to take out money on our names, which I think is hilarious because, they're taking out money on my name and, I'm a disability attorney. I don't make tons and tons. I mean, I make some, but I don't make tons and tons. If I made tons and tons, I would have, done a lot of different things with my life. Or I wouldn't. I don't know. It'd probably be pretty similar. All right. Foreign aid by country. Who is getting the most and how much? Despite its strong association. All right. So let's just go down to the basics here. What you need to know. Okay. So let's see. Foreign aid by country. How much does the U.S. spend and who's getting the most? This is the fun stuff. There's always a lag time for reporting accurate numbers, which nobody has. For 2021, we'll be using 2020 allocated numbers. It's not unusual for some of these allocations to differ from the eventual disbursements. Yeah, no kidding. In this year, the United States planned to spend $43 billion in foreign aid. It allocated the same amount for 2019 and ultimately spent $45 billion. Almost a quarter of that budget would go just to 10 countries. It actually now in 2021 looks like they spent a little bit more than that. But remember, Trump was a big spender in foreign aid, and it became a lot more as time went on. And then Biden, obviously, we know he's going to be the biggest spender. Israel, $3.3 billion. $3.3 billion. Israel, the country that has a stock market interest that has more invested in it of the European stock market than most European countries combined, we gave $3.3 billion to. Wow. That's awesome. Good for Israel. Nice. That's a lot. All right. Jordan. Everybody loves Jordan. I'm kidding. $1.52 billion. $1.52 billion. That is courageous of us. How brazen we are. Egypt. Countries that seem to have people that don't like us all the time. $1.43 billion to Egypt. Not million. $1.43 billion to Egypt. Tanzania. Like, why? Why would we ever spend $547 million? Tanzania. Kenya. $544 million. And what's happening is we're investing massive amounts there to restructure them into basically mini democracies that produce the stuff we want at a very cheap rate because China's obviously not working out so great for us. All right, Kenya, $544 million to Kenya. Uganda, which didn't go to the Kenyan people in total, but you know how that goes. Uganda, a nice $533 million, a mere $500 million to Uganda. Mozambique, $522 million. South Africa, $482 million. Zambia, $457 million. Iraq, $454 million. It's also, I'm going to rewrite from this, and this is from concernusa.org. It's also worth noting the breakdown between economic and military spending in these countries. Of the nearly $4.5 billion foreign aid dollars allocated to the top 10 countries, 54% of the $5.28 billion was designated as military funds. So half, right, 54%, a little bit over half. Half of this that we spend on these other countries equates to basically, military, we're setting up bases. Let's just call it like it is. We want a military presence in Africa, right? It's all part of that threat game. How are we going to get cheap oil? I thought it was with pipelines, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But then who owns the trucks? Who owns the shipping trucks? Oh, that person would be out of a lot of money unless they made big donations to the particular campaign for the president that got rid of those wonderful pipelines. Oh, that was another cutesy. That's over 78% of all overall U.S. foreign military aid, $6.7 billion in 2020. So a lot went for military stuff. And when you think about it, it's ironic. We promote the idea that we are humanitarian, organized, foreign aid people. But in reality, yeah, we're feeding the people, but then we're also throwing the military in there to be like, you better behave, and all the other countries around it. Now, I want to point something out that's interesting. Why are we spending money to put our military there when they could be essentially paying us to keep our military there? Doesn't that seem weird to you guys that these developing countries don't want us, like won't like give us a spot? Like, hey, here's 500 acres. You can set up your military right here. You can do your thing. You don't have to pay us anything. Or, hey, we'll pay you so that you're here and you scare off the other nations that want to attack us. Right? I know about Africa. I wanted to do a video specifically on that, but we don't have time tonight, specifically for Africa when it comes to how much money they actually have as a continent. It's a massive trade enterprise. Like, don't think Africa is like what it is in the movies. It's a massive trade enterprise. All right, here we go. In countries like Iraq, for example, 55% of its $454 million in aid for 2020 was designated. This is a 2020 figure. Was designated for military assistance, according to the USAID. This can include a broad range of programming from counter-terror operations to strengthening legal and judicial systems. That's good. We want that. But then why do we have to pay so much to do it? Shouldn't they be paying us to show them how to do it? That's how it works in the real world. Or does it? Right? On the other hand of the spectrum, Kenya was set to receive almost exclusively humanitarian assistance. Funding in 2020, less than 0.18% of its funding was earmarked for military assistance. As in previous years, the majority of economic aid was designated for emergency response, along with developmental food aid and food security assistance and maternal and child health. That's beautiful. Where does concern fit into all of this? Concern worldwide's funding comes from a variety of sources, blah, blah, blah. Let's get through this. In 2019, received more than $41 million from the U.S. government in 2019 to support 26 programs in more than a dozen countries. In 2019, our U.S. government funded programs that reached nearly 10 million people. It looks like they're talking about these beautiful programs: community management of acute malnutrition, a pilot program that Concern co-developed 20 years ago. Another key Concern project, the National NGO Program on Humanitarian Leadership, was made possible in part by foreign aid, which in turn has trained dynamic and relevant training opportunities that help learners build their skills, knowledge, and confidence to take on leadership responsibilities in humanitarian organizations. And this is good. What they're saying here is these countries, wow, Sandra Bryan, thank you. I appreciate it. That's awesome. Thank you. Sandra Bryan donated $10. Thank you. What they're saying here is that these countries don't have the money to exist as a democracy. And I want to point out here, in case you guys didn't realize, democracies are really expensive. They're really expensive. With democracies, you essentially have to fund a lot of people to create new products that create money that ultimately pay taxes and then help fund the people that can't do things, like the disabled and retired. Democracies are not cheap. Other forms of government that we have are like, this is your dictator. They don't usually have a lot of programs for the disabled, for the retired, etc. As they develop, they might get those. And a lot of people will be like, what about Britain? Well, Britain's not your classic dictatorship. I mean, come on, that's very far, but classic dictatorships, and there's still quite a few. Let's point out the obvious here. China is now about to have their leader for a significantly longer period of time. He is the new Mao Zedong of that entire, area. Russia keeps putting it, they keep going that route. They keep going that way. I guess what I'd like to say to you guys is this. What concerns me is that at the end of the day, we have 16.8 trillion in debt. We have not fixed our issue relating to homelessness, lack of food, and I know what you're thinking. How could we have a lack of food or the food prices going up in such an extreme manner when we have so many farmers out there and we're paying so many subsidies to them to not produce food? Monica Corney, thank you. I really appreciate it. Excellent. Donated $5. Thank you. I want to point out to you guys this. We can have surplus. We don't need to have a second harvest group that distributes food. We could make food cheap enough with new technologies and machines. We could make food production more of an essential thing that we teach. How many of you guys grew up in an agricultural based academia system? I bet none of you, or maybe one. I might be the only person on this chat session right here that actually grew up on a farm. And my point to you is this: it's just what I don't understand is we're America. We're a big piece of land. We could grow tons of food. We could have tons of meals. We could have the future of no American being hungry. Every American could have 3 or 4 meals a day and live a very good life. There's a guy out there. I want to put some. I forget what the name of it is, but he's building these trailers, and these trailers hook up to a regular hitch on a truck. You drive over. They have 4 bedrooms on them. You drive over to a homeless area, and the homeless crawl into them, and they sleep, and they wake up, and they go about their way. It's not perfect. It's not a giant building. It's not, one of these massive cots things that are set up, all the way down a homeless, convention center. But it's a start, and it's a good idea. And my point with this so much more is this: a major issue that nobody talks about, which I think we should be a little bit more open about, even though it's a very taboo topic, is that homeless women get raped all the time. And that's a big problem. And we need to do something better about it, because when women are on the street and they're homeless, they're just targets. And the unfortunate thing is that they get targeted until they lose complete self-worth from what's happened to them. They have PTSD trauma. They can't, function properly because of how much of their basic soul has been taken from them. It's something we need to talk about more that we just don't talk about. But the point is this: we haven't fixed our homelessness, our food crisis, our economic crisis, our basically our what are people going to do with their lives crisis. I mean, we keep producing all these programs in academia that, essentially are great. I mean, and don't take me wrong, they're important. But some of these basic studies of the art that people really want to go into, we need to have an industry that can support it. We don't have that. And here's why this is important. If we don't have enough people paying taxes, we cannot afford retirement. We cannot afford Social Security benefits like disability benefits. And the way they do it is they look at metrics of how many people are on this side of the fence paying into the system, and how many people are on this side of the fence taking from the system for their Social Security insurance. And the problem is this group is getting smaller, the ones that pay into it, and this group is getting bigger. And the problem is now, 10 years from now, we know the retirement trust fund is going to run out, and that's scary. How many of you are going to rely on the retirement system? All of you. All of you. All right, so bottom line is I wanted to go through these details with you. I think they're very important. I want to make sure that everybody is aware of what's going on, because we need to have a strong economy. And we need to basically be able to produce things cheaply in-house in America. And we need to train people in school how to go ahead and start businesses and succeed. How many of you were taught in school how to start a business? Anybody? You don't need a master's degree to do it. You don't even need a college degree to do it. You don't even need a high school degree to do it. So I just wanted to point that out, is that we have to fix our academia system, and we have to do all these things magically quickly, because at $16.8 trillion in debt, the future of America is us paying off the credit card. Now, a lot of you guys bitched about those 2 Democratic individuals as like they were the stones in the shoe of Biden, right? What they wanted was pretty much to lower the amount that was actually paid out. Now that you know we're 16.8 trillion in debt, and that they want to add more debt on top of that, and we're essentially losing millions of dollars. The amount is scary, and some of you guys are like, oh, well, that's not that big of a deal. It is, when you realize what you could fix with those millions of dollars. All right, so bottom line is, I just want you to realize all this stuff is tied together. All right, guys, we're now going to do phone calls to go ahead and answer things. Let's see what we can do. Let's see, hold on. That's the phone number, so that we can go ahead and basically do questions. I know, Adam Brock, we've been in debt for like a really long time, since the Clinton era, which is just mind-boggling. You know what I mean? So But anyways, I'm going to see who I missed calls from, and then we'll go ahead and call these people back and keep this thing rolling. Hold on. Here we go. Let's get the first person on the phone. 1 second. Okay, let's see what we got here. Here we go. We're going to call the first person. You guys know how this works. We let it ring, and then the person answers, and then I give them the details, and then we go from there. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Knott. We are live on YouTube. So would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to run hearing questions? And remember to use a fake name throughout this.
I have a question. We have questions for you.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, my friend has sarcoid. Are you familiar with that?
The phone kind of wiggled because I was moving something. Say it again.
Are you familiar with the disease sarcoid?
I've heard of it. I don't know of it in detail.
Okay, my friend has sarcoid, and what it is inflammation of your lymph nodes.
Mm-hmm.
It's an autoimmune disease type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it can go into remission, though hers is advanced enough that it's not going into remission. And she's had it for about 20 years, 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
And now she's going to Mayo Clinic, and she has a lot of documentation for it. And I wanted her to start, her Social Security disability. She's working from home. She can't even go into the office.
Okay.
What would be your recommendations for her to get started with her Social Security? She's still working at home, so she's not off work. And I know you have to not work for a while, correct?
Well, no, okay, so let me go through a few basic things. First and foremost, element one is you can't be earning SGA, which is the $1,310 per month. If she is working and earning that amount, the problem is that basically she has put herself into a position where she won't be eligible. And so the bottom line is if she's not eligible, she shouldn't apply. However, is she getting to the point where she's earning less than $1,310 per month?
She's on FMLA, and when that ends, they may not let her come back.
Okay, so she's taking a break.
Right.
Okay. And so with this break that she's taking, was her expectation to go back to work? What was she earning the month before she left, or the last couple of months before she left? Walk me through the stats.
I'm just going to go ahead and talk to you. I'm right here with her.
Oh, howdy.
It's FMLA where I see just the doctors. I'm still working full-time from home, but physically I'm not going to ever really, I don't know if I'd get back to work. I was misdiagnosed for so long that it's really bad.
Okay. Now, when you say, when you say really bad,
Yeah.
What do you mean? Give me some descriptive, like, how are you limited?
Sarcoid disease attacks the organs as well. It starts with the lungs and the brain and stuff like that, but it can move to the heart, which it has, and like my spine. It's even in my brain. Mm-hmm. So, but I know that eventually the FMLA is going to end in January, the 1st of January, and they want me there physically, not working from home.
Okay.
But there's some days I can't function to go to work, other than I can work at home, but I don't know.
All right, so let's talk through this. Yeah, let's talk through this real quick. So they gave you accommodations to work from home. You've been quasi-working from home and not really doing what you traditionally do. They want you back in full. You don't think you can go back in full. So you're looking at your short-term disability benefits, long-term disability benefits options right now through the company. It seems like you've basically got some sort of condition that essentially allows for the cells to go ahead and basically get larger, inflame themselves, and then that causes a lot of pain. It causes a lot of swollen lymph nodes because they're trying to fight it. You've got an autoimmune that's basically, creating your body to try and fight itself. And as a result of that, there's no hope in sight of this thing really getting better because you spent this time going to medical treatment, correct?
Correct. And then to top it off, last Christmas, I actually got COVID from my job. And I work at a front desk medical where I run the front desk. So I get, people that come in So not only did they discover that I had sarcoid, I got sick with the COVID as well. So, yeah, so I'm still suffering some of the COVID results too, and I don't know.
So
I'm scared about not working and losing my health.
So taking all of the emotion out of it, because I find that if we get to the bottom line of it, what you're really saying to me is, what should my plan be going forward? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically what your plan should be going forward is the following. You want to reach out to your company and see what kind of long-term disability program they have and see if you've somehow paid into a short-term disability program as well. Some people know they have, some people don't realize they've even paid into the benefits, but your LTD-based option is usually the next thing, because this wasn't something where you can claim a workers' comp that you were injured at work. Even if you had COVID, yeah, maybe, but that's a little bit tougher of a prove. But here's the thing: you're going to file for basically SSDI benefits. And now, be truthful with me on this. Financially, are you over the next 3 to 6, let's just say 3 months, going to have less than $2,000 in the bank?
I put a little bit away. I refinanced my house because of the situation.
Sure.
And so I took money out against my house. So I have that, but I won't be bringing in 2,000 now.
Mm-hmm. So basically, okay. So you've got funds in the bank because of that, even though it formed a loan situation. So you're going to be purely an SSDI individual. Now, with that said, SSDI benefits, I'm assuming you have enough quarters of coverage because you've been working most of your life, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So you're going to...
64.
Okay, you're going to go on SSDI benefits. You're going to go on to, you're going to apply for SSDI benefits. You're going to apply for your LTDs. You're going to go through both of these particular programs, and you're going to get onto LTD benefits first, and you're going to ride that until you get onto your SSDI benefits. Once you get onto your SSDI benefits, your LTD benefits will either reduce or will cancel, and then you'll owe a bunch of that back pay to the LTD company. As you continue forward on SSDI benefits, how old are you currently?
64.
You're 64. Well, that changes things.
Actually, I'm sorry, I'm 63. I'm 64 next month.
Okay, 54.
I'm 63.
You're 6'3".
Yeah, I'm 6'3".
Well, I mean, in that instance, what your options are going to be, see if you can go onto a long-term disability plan. See if you can get onto that. Maybe apply for a short period of retirement until you can get your LTD to kick in. Then basically, and also at the beginning of this, apply for SSDI benefits. Once you get granted SSDI benefits, switch over to SSDI benefits from retirement. That will get you off of being penalized from taking retirement benefits going forward. Ride SSDI benefits until you reach 66, 67 when you hit your full retirement, and then you'll transition back to retirement at that point.
Okay, and what happens if I don't have disability?
Like LTD benefits?
Long-term disability with the company.
Well,
what if I don't have it?
You took out a loan, so you could probably ride that, but you got to do the balance test of financially, should I put some of this loan money back, or should I go into retirement and take early? Your impairment is a tricky one because, look, all these autoimmune ones, they're tough. They're tough wins when it comes to disability benefits. They're not all of them are as bad as fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is a toughie to win, but these autoimmune ones, they can be a little bit tricky. The bottom line is this, though: you have to balance and weigh. Okay, how bad am I on paper at the doctor's office? Am I within the listing level criteria for being approved for disability benefits? If I am not at the listing level, and I know you're not because you're still able to do some work. If I am not at the listing level criteria, what is the likelihood that you'll be able to go ahead and get a grid out, right? You're not able to do sedentary or light work, but in this case, you're in your 60s. You're going to grid out real quick. Right. You don't have to do medium work. So look, tomorrow, apply for SSDI benefits. Tomorrow, call your company and say, what are my options for LTD benefits? And then also look at your bank account and say, should I take retirement early? Well, now let me ask you something. This is the most important question. I should have asked this, but I wasn't thinking because I'm tired and it's 9:24 p.m. Are you likely to pay off your house? Or is this like a refinance and there's 30 more years on it?
Yeah, it's got 30 years.
Okay. So that changes the game.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. I mean, yeah, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That could be a strategic thing. If you're going to pass away and you're like, well, I don't really need to leave this puppy to anybody, or if it's one of those things where you're just going to keep paying on it, your mortgage isn't that bad. Is your mortgage a reasonable mortgage?
Yeah, it's reasonable.
All right. So look, you made a rent game out of the rest of your life, which is fine. That's fine. Is it reasonable in the sense of receiving retirement, though?
No, I mean, my retirement would probably pay for the mortgage, but I won't have anything for food or anything like that.
Okay. So then, all right.
Utilities.
So then you got an issue to start thinking about what is my next plan here? Because remember, SSDI benefits convert into retirement at 66, 67. So the problem here is if your mortgage is good for a non-working person, I mean, do you have a significant other that's, also paying on the mortgage?
No, I'm single.
Okay.
I'm divorced.
Okay, gotcha. So is there any other income source beyond just you working?
No, just myself.
So then you got a tricky system here. You took out fund. Do you mind if I ask you how much funds you took out against the house?
30,000.
All right. So that's not going to last you too many years.
No.
So what you've got a math problem. The math problem is I'm in my 60s. Let's assume you get onto SSDI benefits. You ride that till your full retirement, but still your SSDI benefits and your retirement aren't going to be enough. So the problem is now, if you don't have enough per month to pay the mortgage and food and electric and water and, whatever, then you're running into the issue of even if you do it perfectly and get onto SSDI, ride that to full retirement, you're still not going to have enough per month.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know this is going to sound a little odd, but what's your plan for having enough money even if you got retirement?
Well, actually, my house is worth more than my loan.
Mm-hmm.
So if I wanted to downsize my house to something else, I could do that. I had planned to work till retirement. I didn't plan on getting disabled like this. And then maybe, I don't know. I really didn't, other than my 403, which isn't very much because being single, and I just put in what I can afford into the retirement. This illness has been coming on for a long time, and I've just been misdiagnosed for so many years. So now it's really bad.
Let's talk about things that could happen that would help your situation. If you had some sort of somebody special in your life that was helping pay, that would split the bill. Not that you need that. I'm just saying that would help. Another thing that would help is winning the lottery. You just got to throw that in there.
I know. You start buying those tickets.
Right. I've been living that thing too. And I buy the tickets. I just don't buy them enough. The next thing too, there are things, that to keep in mind. I don't know what simple jobs you could do that are within your capabilities, but if you only had to work maybe an hour or 2 hours a day, do you think you'd be able to do a job that would be very slight?
Yeah, I was even thinking of trying to find an at-home job, because there's a lot of them right now.
Okay.
With my experience, so.
Okay. I see positively Cheyenne has offered some options, which are terrible, so I'm going to ignore them. But here's the thing, and now she's going to be mean to me. So here's the thing. I would say this. You've got to find some sort of solution where you can have an at-home, simple gig that pays you a high dollar amount to get things done.
Okay.
And that would be kind of the way to go. Quaalude Charlie said, go without gas, get a hot plate, stay in a Merc trailer next to the house, solar. Yeah, I mean, in order for you to afford solar, that would be a little bit tricky. In order for you to, if it were me, look, can I tell you how I would do it? With my experience of, essentially, see, I knew it. Now she's giving me hell. A little positively shine. All right, so this is how I would do it.
Cheyenne, be nice.
Yeah, no, seriously. No, I actually put a lot on her shoulders sometimes emotionally, but that's like, so here's the thing. And I want you to think about this. Do you live in an HOA?
I do.
Okay.
It's not very much. It's not a low end.
How many rooms are in the house?
3 rooms.
3 rooms. So 3-room potential. Is it in a good neighborhood?
Yeah, it's good. Not too bad.
And I'm assuming that you don't use all 3 rooms as the only person living there.
Right. My son, he finally moved out after all these years, and
congratulations.
Yeah, I have 2 open right now, right?
Congratulations.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was nice.
What do you think those rooms would rent for?
About 500 or 600.
500 or 600 piece. So if we did that, let's say that they were both 500. It was $1,000. Let's say that you paid out of that $1,000, $350. That's going to leave you $650 a month. Would $650 enough be essentially enough on top of your, SSDI benefits or your retirement benefits to be able to survive?
I think so.
Now, look, I'm going to tell you something. It's going to sound crazy, but I used to make fun of all the people that started YouTube accounts and had kids that wanted to start YouTube accounts. And I am surely not a high earner on YouTube, but it does pay me some money. Would you be open to actually starting one of those accounts and talking about your particular impairment?
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay, cool. I would.
I had no idea about it. It's kind of rare.
If you'd be willing to open a YouTube account, I'd be willing to make a donation to you.
Oh, I have no idea how to do that. I'll have to research it. I don't.
All you need is a camera and you need a microphone, and then basically you're good. Do you have a laptop or a computer?
I just got a laptop and I'm trying to get it set up.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Now I have another thing. Another thing that might be a consideration is the following. If you were to go ahead and trade houses to a different house, do a special tax thing, we're just swapping one house to another. There are other houses outside of an HOA that you could buy that could have more rooms in it, that doesn't have all the HOA restrictions, where you could live in it and rent out even more rooms.
That's true.
But that's a lot of work, and it would be easier just to keep the one you have.
I'm going to say, man, that's a lot of headache.
It's a lot of headache. Let me tell you. I'm looking at my parents' farm, trying to figure out how to make that into a business, and that one's a tricky one too. That's like, that's a lot of work thing, but it's actually coming along really well. I have to share with everybody on YouTube what's going on with it. But the bottom line is this: do you know which programs you can post on room rentals? And do you have any local universities? Do you have any local places where you might be able to post things like that to get individuals who could essentially assist you or could essentially rent from you?
Yeah, there's some colleges around.
I know what you're thinking. You don't want more college kids. You just got rid of college kid, right?
Exactly. Uh-huh.
But remember, not all college kids are young individuals that are ready to party. Some of them are older individuals that are going to school.
That's true. And I know there's I live in Arizona, so I have the smokers that come here.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they rent places. That would be something too.
Mm-hmm. Something to think about. And here's the thing. It would not be impossible for you to make it part of the rent, where they have to do certain things around the house. That's part of it. Instead of charging $650, you could charge $600 so long as they do the following functions, which are hard for you: taking out the trash, cleaning the pool, playing with the dog, blah, blah, blah.
Right. Mow the lawn.
Mow the lawn. Well, you're in an HOA. Do they mow the lawn for you?
No. In fact, Arizona, you really don't have lawns around here.
Oh, that's
or
right.
a rock yard.
That's right. Arizona's like all those.
Bit of grass.
Yeah, it's like the sandy planets on Star Wars. Yeah. No, no, just kidding.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly.
Well,
It's
excellent.
nice and still warm here.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, Madame, I will. Do you have any additional questions for
Okay.
me before I pop off to the next caller?
No, but would you recommend if I go find a lawyer to help me with my disability, or?
I would say this: time is a priority. So you're going to want a lawyer to guide you through basically filing, getting all the DDS documents done ahead of time, trying to negotiate some sort of alleged onset date, finalize it, move it along, stuff like that. Arizona is not on the massive list of like too many people applying for disability benefits. So what I would say is this: you're 64, which usually those claims for SSDI benefits are pretty darn easy, because once you get to the 62, 63, 64 arena, a lot of judges for SSDI benefits tend to do a quick approval because it looks good on their spreadsheet, and they grid out really easily. Although I have been seeing a lot of 60, 61-year-olds getting denied at the initial level and the recon level. So one of the things you might want to do that I think would be the most important question you could ask attorneys specifically from your area would be, is the DDS manager in my area, if you have a really local attorney, which would be their area, denying a lot of claims? And that'll put them on them to say, okay, cool. Is this a friendly DDS approval area, or is it a terrible DDS approval area like Central Florida? Central Florida is one of the worst.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Lawyer. Okay. I thank you so much for taking your time.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful, wonderful night.
You too. Be safe out there.
Thank you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, guys, so that was really, really good. Let's see what we've got here. I'm going to go to the next caller real quick. And let me see. Hold on. Boom. Here we go. You guys know how this works. We make the call. We wait. Shadow continues to bump my leg. We might pop him up real quick to say howdy. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Knott, Disability Resolution PA. We are live on YouTube. Would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to run hearing questions? And please remember to use a fake name throughout this. Go ahead. Okay, perfect. Good, sir. It's tough to hear you, so just make sure we're not on speakerphone.
Can you hear me better?
Oh, way better.
Okay. My name is Jim.
Excellent.
And I have a question for you. I am on Social Security disability right now, due to a motor vehicle accident I had while driving a semi-truck. I was rear-ended by another semi-truck, and it gave me a traumatic brain injury.
Yeah, tough.
And epilepsy.
Yeah.
And right away, I didn't have an attorney or anything. They right away approved me for Social Security disability.
Sure.
However, they sent me notice or whatever that I'm going to have my first CDR at the age of 62.
Ridiculous, right?
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I don't know if this is something that's worrisome, or if there's something I need to do to make sure I do things right, or...
The law is that so long as you do not improve, they will not remove you from disability benefits, and they spread that out through an 8-step sequential process analysis via a CDR, which is, of course, a continuing disability review. So what you need to show is that whoever was the doctor before and whatever they wrote, that you have become more severe or stayed at the same severity as what they found before. You are also a neurological-based damage, medical condition claimant, which means that those don't really get better. They just don't, which is why it's weird to see at 62 somebody your age. And how old did this happen to you? Like, were you 59? Were you 58?
I was actually 54 when the accident happened, and I was 55 when I was approved for disability.
Mm-hmm. So neurological claims don't usually get better over time, especially once you get into year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6. We just don't have the technology to make it better at this point. So the kicker is you really don't have much to worry about, because they know this. They know that you have a high priority claim that does not likely get better over time. If you're looking at a claim of like some particular thing that we have medication that's been really great for, then yeah, they're going to be interested. But not neuro claims when there's spinal damage, when there's brain damage, and that's exactly what you got. You had a swing of the head. hit the backrest, went forward, all that jazz. So,
I had a subdural hematoma.
Oh, I bet it was miserable. I bet you had the worst headache for a long time. So
for a long time, I sure did until and I continued to drive after that until all of a sudden, just one day, I felt like I was having a stroke and couldn't function.
So let me ask you this: when you were you hit with a trailer on the back, or was it purely they just rode right up on the back of the truck?
No, I had a trailer on the back, and the other semi that hit me, it was him and I was the only two on the whole interstate. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning.
He fell asleep. Yeah.
And he ran off the road and blew up 3 or 4 times.
Wow.
And just instantly, I mean, I was bad shape. I couldn't hardly think because of all the headaches.
You know, that's tough, but you're lucky because had he hit you when it was just because, you know, remember, if he had just hit the rear tires of you and took a few of those off, you could have swerved and had a much worse scenario because when those big trucks flip over, a lot of people don't realize that you're a cab over engine, which means that, you know, you're super high up. A lot of people in their Priuses don't realize that. But when truck drivers get into an accident, they're way up high, and when they sometimes when they fall over or they flip or they whatever, they're at a much worse scenario because the angle at which they slam over is far greater.
Yes, it is. It's terrible.
Well, you're lucky to be alive, good sir. I guess what I would say to you is this. If you have any questions on specifics for your particular impairment or what you need to prove it or what you're looking for the doctor to do or what tests they should do, well, the first thing I would do is this. I would go to your regular specialist because you're going to have a specialist for this and say, hey.
Yes, I have a neurologist that I see twice a year.
Okay, so I would go to the neurologist and say, go put me through the tests that prove that I was disabled before, do them again, and let's show that I'm worse.
Okay, yeah, she's been sticking up for me all along. She's been writing papers for me to have my handicap parking privileges, and she's also, I filed a work comp claim, and she's also sticking up for me on that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's really fighting for me.
Gotcha. Well, that's good. That's really good. I'm really pleased to hear that. You should be okay. Things to watch out. Statements you say on the phone to the SSA. It is best when you approach speaking to DDS reps as a claimant, as if you were speaking to the sheriff, and the sheriff was not a friend. So it is best to approach it in that particular, light. It is also best that when you are, speaking to them, to remember the golden rule of disability law, which is that if you say you can't do something, then they question it furiously because, gosh, boy, you still might be able to do it. But if you say you can do something, it is as if it was written into the Constitution as per your capabilities.
Sure.
So just remember that rule when you're talking to the DDS reps, okay?
Okay.
Perfect.
Well, I certainly do appreciate you, Mr. Walter.
Thank you, good sir. You have a wonderful, wonderful night.
You do the same. Thank you kindly.
Thank you.
Thanksgiving.
You as well. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Okay, guys, we're going to try and do one more phone call. I haven't been able to read a lot of the chat session, so I'll have to catch up back with that again. I've actually been sitting here rubbing doggies and giving them snuggles, so they're just basically happy. Let's see if we can find somebody else who called in real quick and then do a final phone call. We did that one. Let's see if we can get this one. If we can't get this one, we'll call it a night. I know that there's more of this doggy hair all over it. There's more phone calls, but I have to go ahead and be able to do stuff too. Such as sleep. So let's see if we can get one more person on the phone real quick, and then we will go from there. Hold on, guys. Let's see what we can get. And it's ringing. And it's ringing. And all right, it went to voicemail. So bottom line, guys, we are going to be in the not too distant future having more. Oh, here comes Shadow. We're going to be doing more work specifically on vote to protect the disabled.org. Vote to Protect the Disabled.org is a nonprofit specifically purposed to go ahead and show people who to vote for, so that the disability and VA disability and the retirement groups essentially know who's going to, as a politician, vote in bills that will increase benefits. Incredibly important, a simple nonprofit, a simple purpose. We're now working on finalizing details related to the logo. We are now working on finalizing details related to the website. It's going to be rolling and rolling faster as we keep going forward. Okay, so okay, cool. Catherine Blair is going to be doing a crash course on coding, which is excellent. If you guys want to attend, Catherine, put in there how they can attend. I don't even know how to attend it right now. So bottom line is this. Sweetie obviously is bitching at me. She does that a lot. She's what I like to call a nagging dog. Either way, guys, I will catch you a little bit later. And Catherine Blair, go ahead and put in the chat session specifically how we can actually go to this coding session. I hope all's well. I'll catch you later. Thanks so much, guys. Bye-bye.